I find it difficult these days to truly find myself lost in other worlds. Be it books, films, or games, whatever the medium I'm consuming has to be truly captivating to make me feel like I'm there. However, in amongst vapid and shallow worlds, I managed to find a game I found enthralling. My name is Cyber, welcome to my channel, and I hope you will join me as I discuss the highs and lows of my journey across Erdrea. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Dragon Quest XI. The JRPG is a tried and true formula. From humble beginnings where it was more so a stopgap, a system designed to represent these epic, grandiose battles with the limited hardware of the time, the genre has evolved to become more than that. More than itself, with legends like Final Fantasy, Earthbound, and of course Dragon Quest paving the way for what has become an incredibly popular and interesting way of telling stories. Now, I don't have a great deal of experience in the genre, sadly. I have played a couple, Final Fantasy on the Game Boy Advance, Octopath Traveler on the Switch, and the Pokemon games, but outside of that I consider myself to not exactly be the biggest fan of the games. With that being said though, Dragon Quest XI piqued my interest with its stylized cartoony visuals, relatively simple combat mechanics, and an interesting plot. I figured it would be a pleasure to delve back into the genre with one of its most revered series. Just before we jump in, I'd like to state I played this game on the Switch and therefore had all the extra content and goodies that come with such a version. However, as I don't have any way to record my Switch, I bought the game on PC and am recording it thusly. So, with all that out the way, let's get into it. First and foremost, I'm going to discuss the story. I'll leave out specific plot points as much as possible as I don't want to spoil anything, as twists and turns start fairly early on. Overall, the story is pretty inoffensive. It's standard affair for this type of game. You are the chosen one, or the luminary in this case. You get together a band of wacky sidekicks and explore the world, ultimately trying to stop the big spooky bad man from doing evil stuff and the like. As I said, there are twists and turns in the story, but nothing that you couldn't possibly see coming. Just some interesting moments here and there. I did enjoy the act system, however. The game is split up into 3 different acts, with big story beats being hit to separate the individual acts. Quick spoiler warning here for those curious about this kind of thing. Skip to the time on screen to avoid hearing about these elements. So at the end of Act 1, you go to the big tree in the sky, or Yggdrasil as it is known, and go to collect the Sword of Light, this game's version of the super cool kid sword that only Chad can use. As you go to grab it, you get shot in the back, your party gets wiped, the sword gets nicked, and the tree falls out the sky, which isn't very good because a tree was super important for keeping the lights on and making sure people were alive and stuff. Anyway, with the tree now firmly on the ground, as most trees tend to be, your party is split once again. You take control firstly of Sylvando as you venture across the land, collecting your party members once again, only to realise one of them is dead. Like, permanently dead. Which really struck a chord with me for some reason, as she was pretty critical being the offensive magic user of the team, and now I don't have that anymore. It allowed me to grow attached to the character not only from a superficial story standpoint, where the game is telling me to be sad because she was really cool and always shared her sandwiches, but from a gameplay perspective. I physically felt her presence missing from the game and played the game differently because of her not being there. Anyway, you adventure across the land, one member down, and end up managing to defeat the big bad. I would say this is a pretty cool boss fight, with 2 phases and a unique way of approaching him in the second phase. It felt suitably epic for the final encounter. Now you've killed the final dude, you're able to access the Tower of Time. You go in and the dude at the top tells you if you want Veronica back, you're going to have to leave everything and everyone behind to travel back and prevent her death in the first place. This was a genuinely hard decision for me. Everyone in your party tries to stop you. They had already lost someone very close and they were faced with losing you, the luminary, the thing that held the party together. They were all genuinely grieving. I thought they would just let me go with some bullshit like, it's the right thing to do. But no, they all legit tell you not to go. Of course, after a bit of deliberation, they allow you to leave, but it seriously hit home with this idea that I'm erasing everything that I've done, all the trials and tribulations I've accomplished, all for one chance to save a friend. And the thing is, you don't have to do it. It's optional. You could just end the game here, the big bad is defeated and everyone's happy again. By this point, I played about 40 hours of the game, so I was sufficiently happy with my playtime, but there was this niggling feeling that I wanted to see what happens if I save her. I wanted to have everyone in my party back again. So of course, I smashed a time orb, go back and redo everything. This time when I went to grab the sword, I deflected the shot and fought through a boss fight, then managed to kill the big bad before he revealed himself. Huzzah, all is well in the world. Well, not quite. You see, there's a cutscene in the game where a little tockle goes to pull down what is known as Erdwin's Lantern, which has an ancient and powerful evil contained inside of it, much stronger than the big bad Mordegon ever was in the original timeline. Mordegon knew about this and as such destroyed the lantern before it could be brought down, so this bigger and badder evil could not oppose his smaller but still relatively big and bad evil. I have to admit, I didn't see this coming, and credit where credit's due, it is a really cool twist, that by killing Mordegon too early, you risk unleashing an incredibly powerful powerful evil that literally gave Mordegon his powers. I don't know, I just felt this was a really good way of including time travel while still making it so that it doesn't just solve everything. In fact, without the right knowledge, it can fuck things up even more. So with some travelling around and general gameplay, you of course power yourself up and fight the final boss. He has a really interesting gimmick whereby if you have the Super Sword of Light, you can use it as an item in battle and instantly transition him into a second phase, making the fight much easier for those struggling with it. Anyway, you defeat him and all is well again. Your party is like, whoa, we killed God, nice, and then some end cutscene happens, but I haven't discussed the characters so it probably makes no sense to those who haven't got here themselves. And we are out of spoiler territory. So, onto the gameplay I suppose. Dragon Quest XI's gameplay can be best summed up by 3 words: simple yet effective. There are no specific gameplay gimmicks that really brighten up combat or exploration. The game knows it's simple and works with what it has, and to be honest, this is one of Dragon Quest's greatest strengths. I genuinely believe I would have enjoyed this game less if there had been a super complex or convoluted combat system. I appreciated just being able to go into fights, picking what move I wanted to use, and it happening. This may sound strange for me to praise, but hear me out here. As mentioned, I only have really ever played Octopath Traveler and Pokemon, and both of these games have gimmicks of sort. Pokemon has its Mega Evolutions, its type advantages dictating the pace of the game, and more recently its Dynamaxing with Sword and Shield. Octopath had this BP system, which meant each character didn't really get as many skills as I would have hoped for, and instead got 4 different levels of each skill. Not that I'm saying these 2 games are bad, far from it. I love the BP system in Octopath, and I've bought pretty much every Pokemon game that's come out. However, in this game, having the simple combat system really brings the game back to its roots as a JRPG. There's obviously still a lot of tactics and such that go into each fight, but with the developers not having to focus any time on making the game work alongside weird features and additions, they've been able to make enemy encounters and boss fights more interesting with unique attacks and strategies for each one. Maybe it's just me, but sometimes when returning to the roots of what made something so good in the first place, if you fuck it up you end up with a mess, but if you get it right then it's able to remind players why the JRPG stands tall as such a prominent genre. Outside of combat, general gameplay includes running around, collecting stuff, talking to people, completing side quests, and just general RPG goodness. This is about as fun as it can realistically be in a game like this. There are a ton of items to collect in this game, and it is well worth your time to look into little nooks and crannies, as you might find weapons, armors, and healing items which will be infinitely useful later on in the game. You can also have several little games you can play, such as horse racing and gambling. These are both surprisingly fleshed out, with ample rewards for putting time into both. The casino offers tokens which can be exchanged for really good items if you're able to win big, and the horse races offer you some rare crafting materials, used to make some really high level weaponry and armors. Overall, I definitely put more time into the gambling, but that's because it's so well developed in this game. If you win big and land a jackpot, you could potentially pick up some really overpowered gear depending on where in the game you are when you won. Now that's all well and good, the game plays well, but how does it look? Well, quite frankly, in my humble opinion, the game looks gorgeous. Even on Switch, they did such a fantastic job hiding the downscaling a lot of the time. Obviously, it didn't look as good as this footage, but it definitely was a port that was made with love and care for the original game. The environments are rich and colourful, the characters are full of life and well designed, the stylized graphics are always a joy to look at. I would say this is one of the nicer looking games on the Switch, and as far as PC and PS4 are concerned, it looks even better. On top of this, the game also has a lot of visually striking places to visit, which really allowed the art style to shine. From the beautiful depths of Nautica to the sprawling kingdom of Heliodor and everything in between, this game really is a textbook example of how to make a world inviting yet mysterious. So it looks good, it plays well, and the story is interesting. What is there to fault this game on? Well, to be honest, not really a great deal. I don't think at any point I was really annoyed at anything. In fact, I spent every spare moment I had playing the game once I picked it up for the first time. I thought I was going to be annoyed at the grinding aspect of the game, as I'd heard this series was known for its grinding, but realistically, I didn't have to grind much at all. Of course I did, but that was just because it was fun. I enjoyed the combat, and with metal enemies being so rare to spawn, hard to kill, and dropping tons of XP, it made grinding exciting. I entered some fights half paying attention, only to notice a metal enemy and immediately snap my attention back on the screen, ensuring I use my abilities in the right order to maximize XP gain. I found this fun, but it was not at all necessary. I read up and found people who were using the super strong enemies modifier had beaten the final boss about 10 levels below what I was when I took it on. I suppose if I had to fault this game, it's if you don't like the combat system, it doesn't get much more interesting. The pep system, which allows you to perform super powerful attacks and abilities, does make the game a bit more interesting, but ultimately it isn't something that's going to bring a disinterested player back into the game. It's more like a cherry on the top for players who are already engaged. Well, that's about all I have to say on the game. Of course, I've missed out a massive amount of the game to keep it fresh for players who are interested from this video. All in all, I wholeheartedly believe that this is one of the best games that has come out of late, Switch-wise. The original released on 3DS in Japan back in 2017, but you know what I mean. As someone who isn't really massively into JRPGs, this game definitely brought me aboard the JRPG hype train and has even gotten me into the Dragon Quest universe. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. This video took a hell of a lot longer to complete than I thought it would. Turns out this game is huge and my hands just kept on writing more and more about it, so sorry if I went off track a bit. If you did enjoy this video, I would massively appreciate a like and subscribe for future videos. It takes a long time to make these, but they're all worth it if someone enjoys them. And with that, I'll see you all next time. Bye!